It was only a matter of time before the ladies on The View chimed in on the riots happening in Los Angeles. And would you be surprised if I told you that they're all for it? In this segment, they expose the complete hypocrisy of Democrats, who are so quick to call January 6th the worst thing that ever happened because a federal building was attacked, because a peaceful protest turned violent, because law enforcement was being attacked, but refuse to condemn this situation where the exact same criteria is being met. And then at the end, just a little cherry on top to show you why The View is just the most low IQ show on television, Joy Behar explains to us that we should ignore that Gavin Newsom's a liar or un-American or responsible for these riots because he's just so handsome and smooth talking. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna go ahead and just show you guys what Sunny Hostin has to think about this.
You know, I was reading today that CNN is reporting that ICE is now raiding agricultural communities in California, which will really damage the economy of California. And California subsidizes most of the red states in this country. And so those people that voted for Donald Trump are going to be affected by what ICE is doing. The other thing that
Let me ask you something. Why don't people know that already? I mean, it's so obvious.
It's so obvious, but this is about economics as well. And I'll also say this, you know, this is, I think Trump is not doing this just for optics. I think that this is a test case so that he can dismantle some of our institutions. I think it's a power grab. I think he is trying to use the might of the military to suppress people's rights. I think that is very clear. When you use the military against your own citizens, that is a sign of fascism.
Her statement at the end shows the stark difference between regular normal Americans and Trump deranged Americans. To her, everything Donald Trump does is fascism. Everything is unconstitutional. Everything is an illegal power grab. And the rest of us are sitting here like, they're lighting cars on fire and throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting fireworks at law enforcement. They've trapped themselves in this box where they have to oppose every single thing Donald Trump does, no matter how morally or legally justified it is, or how popular it is with the American people. And it's getting to the point where normal people who aren't even Trump supporters are just looking at the Democrats as completely unreasonable. And at the beginning of her incoherent rant, she talks about how this is going to be an economic problem for California. Well, too bad. That's California's fault. They have a broken model that relies on federal immigration law not being followed. No one told them to allow mass illegal migration into their state, put everybody on state welfare, and undercut American wages and take American jobs. That was their fault for trying to appease the woke left, who fundamentally hate America, believe this is all Mexican land or native land, and because they have that idiotic worldview, they think that borders shouldn't be a thing. Now, this is where Alyssa drops a bomb on the panel and explains to them that all Donald Trump did was expose that the Democrat platform truly is all about pro-illegal immigration.
I was trying to kind of get into the head of Donald Trump on what he's doing around this, and I think most of this is driven by politics. What I think he's doing is he is baiting liberals and liberal governors like Gavin Newsom into taking the bait and adopting rhetoric that he thinks is going to be divisive and damaging ahead of the midterm. So what he wants to happen is he wants Newsom and Democrats to start chanting things like defund ICE, defund the police, because we know that hurt Kamala Harris. We know it hurt Tim Walz. They had to run away from those previous positions, and he's trying to create that sort of standoff right now. But here's the problem. Most Americans oppose rioting. That's just across the board.
Yeah.
They may generally be like, if there's violence, if police officers are getting hurt, they don't like this.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom could do that. He should do that. But he explicitly didn't. He wanted violence to break out because he believed that level of pressure would stop the federal government from enforcing immigration laws, from stopping the deportation raids. He was trying to maintain California's state of lawlessness through violence. I mean, we already knew it because the Democrat Congress refused to stand for the family of Laken Riley. We know it because congressional Democrats on taxpayer money flew down to El Salvador to try to return an MS-13 gang member, and now we see that they're willing to let protesters violently attack law enforcement to try to stop them from deporting people. I mean, this is nonsense. Trump has forced the Democrats to show their hand and reveal what their true intentions are. They're not for securing the border. They're not for deporting people. They want to give mass amnesty to everyone who is here illegally. Why? Because then they'll get tens of millions of new voters who will give the Democrats a permanent majority. That was the plan all along. I mean, they've already brainwashed the entire black community to vote for them in unison forever while doing absolutely nothing to help them. So now they focus all their attention on giving free healthcare, free education, free housing, free benefits to illegal immigrants in hopes that now they'll vote for them in unison too. But here's Whoopi Goldberg, right on cue, making the argument that all Democrats love to make. Well, without these illegals, who's gonna pick our crops?
I just want to say, you know, construction places, you're going to have a harder time finding people who are going to be able to come and do your house. Who are they going to get to pick all the fruit and the vegetables? Because Americans don't want to do it. We know that. The farmers are saying the Americans don't want to do this.
And the tariffs on top of that is going to make everything so expensive.
Well, that too, but getting
it's a mess.
Food is going to be sitting and rotting because there's no one to grab it. Is my.
This is what Democrats don't understand because they lack a shred of self-awareness. They are doing today the exact same thing the Democrats pre-Civil War were doing when they were forced to get rid of their slaves. Their economy was completely reliant on cheap slave labor, and they were willing to violently fight the federal government to stop these changes from happening. They're fighting for California to be a haven for illegal immigration because they're scared their economy will crash without all their cheap labor. It's the same inhumane argument they made back then, and they're too self-righteous to even see it. Now, here's where Whoopi Goldberg completely loses her mind, trying to justify the riots in Los Angeles by saying there's no difference with what's happening now and when sports teams win championships and things get a little out of hand during celebrations. This is crazy.
Can you tell me which one is the riot in Los Angeles and which is the celebration for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Philadelphia loves to burn itself down.
Also
bad.
But was the National Guard sent in when
well, that's
Philadelphia
the
was
point.
burning?
The National Guard was not. Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
You
Where's
know,
the National
listen,
Guard?
In part.
I have a question.
Yeah. So, well, the difference is there's an agenda.
Look at the gears in her brain stalling and creaking as she spits out, "There's an agenda." No, Whoopi, the difference is during these celebrations that get out of hand, it's a bunch of drunk people doing stupid drunk stuff, which is still bad. But in the situation in LA, it's violent property destruction. It's intentionally trying to obstruct federal law from being carried out. It's attacking federal agents with rocks and bottles and Molotovs and shooting fireworks at them. This is violence meant to compel political demands. That's terrorism. That's the difference, Whoopi. Now, Alyssa gets back to slamming Gavin Newsom, criticizing him for saying that these are actually just peaceful protests when we all see the pictures and the videos coming out of Los Angeles.
This is where I put a little bit of onus on Governor Newsom. Show that you have the police force to stop the unrest and that it is completely unnecessary to have the National Guard there, to have U.S. troops there, because you can't deny the imagery that you're seeing. There are cars being lit on fire. There are police officers being attacked. There are guardsmen being attacked.
How many, though?
So
to
be honest, I don't really care. If you're hurting police officers, if you're damaging proproperty, that you should get your day in court for.
But nothing was happening like that until they sent
Until
this.
But this is where it's on the governor to say, let's make this the biggest peaceful protest in history. But the second it gets violent, the governor needs to crack down and show he's capable of policing.
Gavin Newsom's political career is dying right in front of our eyes, and I totally support it. This man is a horrible politician. He has done nothing but try to tax the citizens of California into oblivion to pay for illegal migrants, make it the most unaffordable state to live in, institute destructive woke ideology that led to the burning down of Los Angeles from the fires. It is the epitome of mismanagement. Just look at the high-speed rail disaster. And it's a state that openly rejects the concept of law and order. This man would be extremely dangerous governing the whole country like California. He's just lucky that it's beautiful enough there that enough rich people want to live there, and hell, help stimulate the economy. But he has done nothing but try to do everything in his power to destroy it. And here's where Sunny has a uh-oh moment as she realizes that the Trump administration is serious about these deportations and it's coming to a sanctuary city near you.
Sort of, it's the largest state and it has a GDP that's larger than many countries. And so I think we have to look at what's happening from a bird's eye perspective and look at the why. Trump is militarizing that state as a test run to make sure that he can do it in places like New York, that he can do it in other sanctuary cities. And so there is a plan to this, in my view. And I really think that there's no question that the LAPD, that has 9,000 police officers, could have handled this quite well.
Yeah, these other sanctuary mayors better wake up. They better realize they ought to start cooperating with ICE so they don't have to go into the communities and do raids like they're doing in Los Angeles. Because now they've been put on notice that if protesters show up getting violent with ICE trying to obstruct, he will call in the National Guard to make sure that the law is enforced. And this should be a wake-up call to the illegal immigrants in these sanctuary cities. Self-deport now. Trump is being generous, giving you a plane ticket home, giving you some cash. Maybe you can come back to the United States one day. But if you get caught, and you will get caught, it's going to happen in a fashion like this, and you will never be able to come back. We don't care that you thought you could ignore deportation orders, have a kid on US soil who's an American citizen, and we just leave you alone. It's your fault for thinking that, and it's the Biden administration's fault for making that the federal position. Now, as I promised at the beginning, the last thing I'm gonna show you is Joy Behar getting hot and bothered for Gavin Newsom, saying, let's ignore all the bad things about him because he's just so sexy.
Can I just say, I don't want to be superficial, but Gavin Newsom brings me back to really handsome presidents like JFK and Obama. And wouldn't it be nice to have an articulate, gorgeous president like that again?
What I'm about to say is not a blanket statement for all women because I know I have tons of intelligent female viewers. But comments like that do not help the case for women being smart voters. If you're willing to vote for a guy because he looks nice, because he's a smooth talker, despite being the absolute worst politician we have in the United States, that's just absolute insanity. I think if you let your sexual desires drive your voting decision, you shouldn't be allowed to vote in the first place. But again, it just highlights how The View is by far the dumbest show on television, but it's always good for us to get a glimpse into the mind of the Trump deranged so we can see what we're up against, so we can truly see what these people believe out of their own mouths. The idea that all of this was Donald Trump's fault and escalated by Donald Trump is just a lie. We have the timestamps. The riot started Friday night. Donald Trump called in the National Guard Saturday. He didn't cause this. He didn't escalate this. He sent them in to quell this nonsense. But if their rationale is, if you would just stop enforcing the law, if law enforcement officers weren't here, then we wouldn't get violent with them. But if we would say, well, if police weren't at the Capitol on January 6th, then no officers could have gotten hurt. If you would have just let us enter the Capitol building, there wouldn't have been a problem. They would look at us like we're crazy. But as always, the Democrats are a bunch of hypocrites. They have no morals. They have no principles. They're un-American and undemocratic, and they constantly prove that they are actually the big bad boogeyman they claim Donald Trump is. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.